Thanks, Daniel. Well, first, it's wonderful to be back in Greece. I spent a lot of time here, 2013 to 2016, very, very difficult years, and I just want to, before I jump into the topic at hand, congratulate the Greek people and leadership for how far you've come. Yes, the economy is not where it was, but remember the days when we were talking about Grexit, when we were talking about complete collapse, and now we have a country that's emerged from the IMF that is growing again and that has a new leadership planning to unleash the next stage of potential here. So I think you should all give yourselves a round of applause before we go further. But anyway, so on transatlantic relations, you know, when you talk about the challenges and the opportunities ahead of the US and Europe, or the US and Canada and Europe, as I'm used to thinking about it from the NATO platform, we ought to be in a place where we are infusing this relationship with energy, where we are attacking the major problems together, because in fact, everything that we need to address, both at home and globally, is virtually the same. On the security and national security front, whether you're talking about a more aggressive Russia, a more ambitious China, Iran, Syria, migration, climate, no country can do this stuff alone, despite some of the rhetoric and effort coming out of Washington at the moment. On the economic side, as the last panel made so clear, what we need is an optimistic, ambitious approach to economic renewal and innovation. In the digital era, dealing with artificial intelligence and 5G. We need to ensure together that the liberal family of nations continues to set the rules of the global economy rather than the autocrats hijacking these new technologies to create surveillance states and close opportunity for individuals. I loved what Prime Minister Renzi said about needing an economy of the son rather than an economy of the grandfather. I would add an economy of sons and daughters and rather than grandfathers and grandmothers. But this means pro-growth strategies, innovation strategies, entrepreneurship, free trade, and setting the global rules for managing these new technologies in an open, transparent, clear, fair way, rather than strangling speech or handing this playing field to our adversaries. And we have to start delivering for the middle class. I think that's what this populist wave, to the extent that it's happening on both sides of the Atlantic, is really about. Too many people feeling that they won't live as well as their mothers and fathers lived in the same circumstances. So that's about restoring our optimism, our confidence, opportunity for our citizens together. Rather than tariffing each other, we should be investing together. We should be creating transparency and be proud of competition. And then the last point is values. As we've seen here in Greece, alternation of political power is one of the greatest strengths of democracy, along with a free press, an independent judiciary, tolerance, inclusion. These are things that are special to us, and we need to be proud of them and hold on to them, rather than attacking them within our own countries or allowing a single group to squeeze out all political competition. So these are things that we ought to be doing together. Yes, it is disturbing that my own country is today not playing the leadership role, that it has chosen America first, which folks like me worry, and I think more and more American citizens worry, will mean America alone if we are not careful. But interestingly, if you look at the polling in the United States, there has been a counterreaction. The support for the NATO alliance is stronger today than it was 4 years ago in the American population. It is well above 70%. Support for the United Nations, which has always been controversial in the United States because it's been seen as a clipper of sovereignty, if you will, or a reducer of US national sovereignty, is more popular than it's been in decades. So I think the question now is in the absence of the US playing its traditional leadership role, setting out ideas and encouraging unity among the transatlantic family, how much can Europe do to pick up the gauntlet of economic openness, of defense of values, including on the European continent, by the way. We need to be careful here about the EU supporting governments that are using democratic processes to undermine democratic institutions, and that's something that we can talk about, but also in addressing some of these global threats, particularly ensuring that investment here on this continent from China is managed properly and transparently and does not become rapacious or abusive, that you move on and manage Iran and climate as well as you can. But also the opportunity within this region itself, and then I'll stop. I agree with what Hella said about Greece having the potential to be a real engine of growth throughout Southern Europe and throughout the Balkans in this next phase. I know that the Prespes Agreement was controversial here, but it opens an opportunity for Greece not only to have this great new Mediterranean strategy with Cyprus and with Israel, but also to become a leader and a mentor for the countries of the Western Balkans in creating more economic opportunity and unity among them, for picking up that gauntlet of creating a real regional economic area, perhaps even a Balkan common market that could benefit all of the countries of this part of the world and be part of your own renewal strategy here. So I would encourage that. And please, I think the American people as a whole still strongly value this relationship, know that we cannot and should not go it alone, and don't want to.
Well, thank you. And that's a very positive vision of the opportunity, particularly the regional opportunity that Greece has. But can I come back to, because what you were saying about values and common purpose, common challenges, would suggest that this idea of Europe, and that one should not necessarily be so fatalistic about the idea of Europe and America drifting apart. Clearly, America is going to have an election in just over a year's time, which will be very significant. But should Europeans be planning for a fundamentally different relationship over the next generation with the United States than we have had in the past, or will this period become to be seen as a blip? What should we be doing in Europe about this challenge to what has been a fundamental basis for our economic and political and security lives?
Well, I would argue, at the risk of being another American telling Europeans what to do, that in Europe's own interest, regardless of what we are or are not doing in the United States, you want to be a leader in global security. You want to be a leader in economic innovation and in supporting and advancing the liberal, open, free trading system that has brought so much prosperity to all of us over the last 70 years. You want to be a leader in defending liberal and open and free values. I would have hoped to see more European politicians, and we've had some of it from President Macron, from Chancellor Merkel, from others, standing up publicly and reminding citizens here, but citizens globally, what our open, free system has brought us in terms of benefits, and defending it the way we used to hear from the Václav Havels and Kohls of this world. So while we figure ourselves out, the stronger, most open, most innovative, most tolerant Europe is in the interest of this planet, and frankly needed by Americans now.